pain medications that the drug companies have produced, their marketing practices, their the marketing case that they made to primary care physicians that, oh, by the way, it's okay. Pain relief is something people are entitled to, and you can prescribe these medications without the risk of addiction, because there was a study that said it happens only 1% of the time. Well, it turned out the study is a one-page letter to the American Journal of Medicine, and it dealt with a controlled treatment program amongst hospitalized folks, and whose usage could be monitored. So it didn't even come anywhere near, it didn't prove anything. And if that was used by the companies to merchandise their drugs to the doctors that prescribe them. So that was part of the problem. Then you had pain mills. Portsmouth, Ohio is where the name of the book comes from. And then you have something new from Mexico. I mean, so much of the illegal heroin, it doesn't come from Afghanistan. It's not distributed by the mafia. It comes from little villages in Mexico that grow opium up in the mountains, and then they, I don't quite understand it, but they transform it very, very easily into something called black tar. And their marketing model is different. They don't rely on anybody with guns. In fact, they try not to have drug wars, but they send young men from the village who kind of like the money that others who've done it come back to the village with, and they go to a community. They go to the methadone clinics and say, I got some heroin for you. They have a very cheap price, and they never have a large quantity. As I understand it, the dosage is put in balloons that are carried in the mouths of the sellers, and this means if they get stopped, they immediately swallow the balloons, and the evidence is in the digestive system. Or if it's recovered, the quantity is small enough, and they don't have weapons, so they're just sent. They are here illegally, so they're sent back to Mexico. And the folks organizing all this stayed away from the big cities in the east and the west, where folks were already located. They went to places where there were pain mills like Portsmouth. They went to cities in Ohio that had significant populations of Mexicans, so that the distributors could easily be melded into the population, and they didn't require buyers to come to the ghetto. On the other hand, they wherever a user is, it's delivered. So all this stuff made it even worse than you can imagine, and it just angers you so much. Number one, it takes so long to figure that out, and number two, the role of the drug companies. So that's all of saying that we have to do more here, although I'm not sure we know what to do. It's obvious that a 30-day treatment program doesn't do it for you. You're not recovered. I have a nephew that has been I've lost track, 14 or 15 years without drugs, but we thought we were going to lose him along the way. He went into rehab, then out of rehab, he happened to have a source of money, and only when he came under the hammer of a judge and spent a year in Prospect House was he able to free himself of all that. Anyway. I talked about the equity study that we're talking. Every place I go, I talk about the Urban League report, which was issued, I think, at the end of 2015. But it documents what we all realize, I think, that there are two cities, like many major areas, urban areas. There's a tremendous disparity between black and white on any number of measures. And the one that I keep trying to come to grips with is that in terms of income disparity between blacks and whites, of 77 metropolitan areas, Cincinnati came in 73. So we are the 73 worst in terms of median black income versus median white income. Now, I've been on this childhood poverty collaborative, and I'm not sure we yet understand why Cincinnati's number should be so poor. I mean, 77 major urban areas. There are a lot of Rust Belt cities, cities that have populations maybe even more black than Cincinnati. One of the things may be transportation and the lack of linkage between people who want to work and where the jobs are. And it's one of the things we've been trying to work on. But if you look at life expectancy, a child born today in Avondale, from Avondale is going to live 20 years less than a child born today from North Avondale. 20 years of life. Infant mortality rates, childhood poverty rates, unemployment, affordable housing, educational opportunities. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Incarceration. So, you know, I'm kind of tired of dealing with all this stuff. I've been at this on and off for 40 years, and we're still talking about the same thing. So, some way, somehow, this is a time that we need to find a way to make Cincinnati different. And maybe that's that study we're talking about at the beginning. It looks at city programs rather than programs outside the city. And the city getting its house in order better doesn't change the community, but you know, it's in our area that a high school teacher talked about lynching. It's in our area that those stupid basketball uniforms went without protest for several games, and then you know, there are a whole list of things. So good people have to say it's got to be different. It's got to be changed. So, other questions? Yes, sir.
You know, with the really abysmal homeownership rate
right
in the county, especially Cincinnati, and the ever